In ancient Egypt, the Israelites, descendants of Jacob, had grown into a large, thriving community. But a new Pharaoh, threatened by their numbers, enslaved them, forcing them into harsh labor-building cities like Pithom and Ramesses. Yet the more they were oppressed, the more they multiplied, defying Pharaoh's attempts to break their spirit. Desperate Pharaoh ordered the Hebrew midwives to kill all newborn Israelite boys, but they bravely refused, saving countless lives. Frustrated, Pharaoh commanded that every Hebrew baby boy be thrown into the Nile. Into this world of suffering and hope, a child destined to change everything was about to be born. The stage was set for a story of deliverance. In the shadow of Pharaoh's harsh decree, a Levite woman clung to hope as she hid her newborn son. For 3 long months she risked everything, concealing the infant's cries from soldiers who scoured the land for Hebrew boys. Each day her heart pounded with fear, but her love for her child gave her courage. When hiding him became impossible, she crafted a basket from reeds, sealing it with pitch to keep out the Nile's waters. With trembling hands, she placed her son inside and set him afloat among the reeds, entrusting his fate to the river. His sister Miriam watched from a distance, her eyes filled with worry and hope. By the riverbank, Pharaoh's daughter came to bathe. She noticed the basket, heard the baby's cries, and was moved with compassion. Defying her father's edict, she chose to adopt the child, naming him Moses, meaning drawn out of the water. In that moment, the fate of a nation began to change. Moses grew up in the splendor of Egypt's royal court, learning the ways of princes and scholars. Yet, he never forgot his true heritage. The stories of his people, their suffering and their faith, echoed in his heart, shaping his identity, even as he wore the garments of royalty. One day, Moses witnessed an Egyptian overseer brutally beating a Hebrew slave. Overcome by anger and a sense of justice, he intervened, killing the oppressor. Realizing his act was known, Moses fled Egypt, leaving behind the only life he had ever known to escape Pharaoh's wrath. In the distant land of Midian, Moses found refuge. At a well, he defended the daughters of Jethro from hostile shepherds, earning their gratitude. Welcomed into Jethro's family, Moses married Zipporah and began a new life as a humble shepherd, far from the palaces of Egypt. For 40 years, Moses lived in exile, tending flocks in the harsh wilderness. The memories of his royal upbringing faded, replaced by the quiet rhythms of shepherding. Yet each day in solitude, he was being shaped by the land and by the lessons of humility and patience. Alone beneath the vast desert sky, Moses wrestled with his past and wondered about his future. In the silence, he found strength and wisdom, unaware that he was being prepared for a destiny far greater than he could imagine. The journey from prince to shepherd was only the beginning of Moses' transformation. Each step in the wilderness brought him closer to his true calling. In obscurity, the deliverer of Israel was being forged, his character refined, his spirit strengthened, and his faith deepened. Soon, the quiet shepherd would be called to lead a nation, and the world would witness the rise of Moses. In the quiet solitude of the wilderness near Horeb, Moses faithfully tended his flock, as he had done for years. The rugged mountains and endless desert stretched before him, a place of silence and reflection. But on this day, something extraordinary caught his eye. A bush engulfed in flames, yet miraculously untouched by the fire. Drawn by wonder and curiosity, Moses approached the burning bush. As he drew near, a voice called out from within the flames, speaking his name with authority and tenderness. God commanded Moses to remove his sandals, for he was standing on ground made holy by the divine presence. In that sacred moment, God revealed himself as the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the God of Moses' ancestors. He declared that he had seen the suffering and oppression of his people in Egypt, and that their cries for deliverance had reached his ears. God then gave Moses a staggering commission. Go, I'm sending you to Pharaoh to bring my people, the Israelites, out of Egypt. The weight of this divine mission pressed upon Moses, who had lived as a humble shepherd for so long. Overwhelmed by fear and self-doubt, Moses protested. questioning his own worthiness and ability to confront the mighty Pharaoh. He wondered aloud, "Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and bring the Israelites out of Egypt?" But God reassured Moses, promising, "I will be with you." He revealed his eternal name, "I am who I am," a name that spoke of unchanging power and presence. God's words offered comfort and strength, assuring Moses that he would not face this challenge alone. To strengthen Moses' wavering faith, God granted him miraculous signs: a staff that would turn into a serpent, a hand that could become leprous and then healed, and the burning bush itself, a symbol of God's enduring power. Understanding Moses' hesitation to speak, God appointed his brother Aaron as his spokesman, ensuring that Moses would have support and companionship on this daunting journey. With his fears addressed and his brother by his side, Moses gathered his courage. He set out from the wilderness, staff in hand, determined to obey God's call and confront the ruler of Egypt. The once reluctant shepherd was now transformed into God's chosen messenger, carrying a divine mandate that would change the course of history. The stage was set for a dramatic confrontation, a battle not just between two men, but between the power of God and the might of Pharaoh. The struggle for Israel's freedom was about to begin. As Moses gazed into the horizon, he knew his life would never be the same. The journey ahead would test his faith, courage, and resolve. The world was about to witness a clash of kingdoms, a story of liberation and faith that would echo through the ages. Moses and Aaron confronted Pharaoh, "Let my people go." Pharaoh refused, increasing the Israelites' burdens. God unleashed 10 plagues. Water turned to blood, frogs, gnats, flies, livestock disease, boils, hail, locusts, darkness, and finally, the death of every Egyptian firstborn. Each plague struck at Egypt's gods and Pharaoh's pride, but he remained stubborn. Only after the final devastating plague did Pharaoh relent. The plagues shattered Egypt's power and set the stage for Israel's exodus. God's might was undeniable. Freedom was within reach. Before the final plague, God instructed the Israelites to sacrifice a spotless lamb and mark their doorframes with its blood. That night, the angel of death passed over every house marked by the blood, sparing the firstborn within. The Israelites ate the lamb with unleavened bread and bitter herbs, dressed for departure. In Egypt, every household mourned their dead, including Pharaoh's own son. Broken Pharaoh ordered the Israelites to leave at once. The Passover became a lasting symbol of deliverance and faith. The long night of slavery ended. A new journey began. God's promise was fulfilled. The people of Israel marched toward freedom. The Israelites left Egypt in haste, carrying their possessions and God's promise. Pharaoh, regretting his decision, pursued them with his army, trapping them at the Red Sea. Terrified, the Israelites cried out, but Moses declared, "Stand firm, the Lord will fight for you." God parted the sea with a mighty wind, creating a path of dry land. The Israelites crossed safely, walls of water on either side. The Egyptian army followed, but the waters crashed back, destroying them. The Israelites saw God's power and believed. Their journey of faith continued. From slavery to freedom, God led his people with signs and wonders. The Red Sea miracle became a defining moment in Israel's story. The nation marched on, forever changed. In the desert, the Israelites faced hunger and thirst, quickly forgetting the miracles behind them. They grumbled, longing for Egypt's comforts. God responded with daily manna, bread from heaven, and quail for meat. He taught them to trust his provision and observe the Sabbath. When water ran out, God instructed Moses to strike a rock, and water gushed forth. Through every trial, God provided, testing their faith and dependence on him. The wilderness became a classroom of trust. God's care was constant, even in hardship. The people learned that true life comes from God's word and presence. Their journey pressed on towards Sinai. 3 months after leaving Egypt, the Israelites camped at Mount Sinai. God called Moses up the mountain and offered a covenant. If they obeyed, they would be his treasured people. The people agreed, consecrated themselves, and prepared for a divine encounter. Amid thunder, lightning, and smoke, God delivered the Ten Commandments, principles for a just and holy society. Overwhelmed, the people asked Moses to speak to God on their behalf. Moses became their mediator, receiving further laws to guide their new nation. The covenant was sealed. Israel was now God's people. A new identity and purpose were forged at Sinai. While Moses was on Mount Sinai receiving the law from God, the people below grew restless and anxious. Feeling abandoned and uncertain, they convinced Aaron to make a golden calf, a physical idol they could see and touch. In their impatience, they quickly forgot the miracles they had witnessed and broke their covenant with God almost immediately, turning to false worship in the very shadow of the mountain where God's presence had been revealed. God's anger burned at their betrayal, threatening to destroy the people for their disobedience. But Moses, acting as a mediator, climbed back up the mountain and pleaded passionately for mercy on behalf of the Israelites. He reminded God of his promises and begged him not to abandon his people, showing deep compassion and leadership. After the people repented for their actions, God listened to Moses and renewed his promise. He gave detailed instructions for building the tabernacle, a portable sanctuary that would serve as a visible sign of his presence among them, even as they wandered through the wilderness. The entire community responded with generosity and devotion. Men and women brought their finest materials, gold, silver, precious stones, and fine fabrics. Skilled artisans and craftsmen worked together, carefully constructing the tabernacle and its sacred furnishings exactly as God had commanded, each detail reflecting their renewed commitment. When the tabernacle was finally completed, something extraordinary happened. God's glory descended in a visible cloud, filling the tent with his presence. The pillar of cloud hovered above it by day, and a pillar of fire by night, signaling to everyone that God himself was dwelling among them. From that moment on, God guided the Israelites on their journey. Whenever the cloud lifted, they would set out. When it settled, they would make camp. God was not distant. He was at the very center of their lives, leading, protecting, and providing for them. The tabernacle became a powerful symbol of God's desire to dwell with his people, to be present in their midst, despite their failures and shortcomings. Even when the people stumbled, God's presence and forgiveness endured. His faithfulness was greater than their mistakes, offering hope and restoration. The journey continued, with the tabernacle and God's presence always at the center of Israel's life, reminding them that they were never alone. The story of Exodus was just the beginning, a journey of faith, forgiveness, and the enduring presence of God with his people.